What is up, everybody? I just feel like popping on, and I know I haven't been here on this account in the longest. Maybe not that long, but I haven't been live here in the longest. So, one thing that I know, because I know I have a lot of people here who are younger than me, who are just trying to figure it out as I was. And I mean, honestly, as you get older, you're always trying to figure it out. But when there's an each one teach one situation, it helps a lot in the process. A lot of the lessons I've learned here online. And I've learned how to navigate what boundaries I might have or how to do things here on social media. So I just want to really just return the favor and take my story and kind of add that. So I do have a lot of people here who know me like in real life. So my story a little bit is, one thing that I live by is what my mother, she has taught me before she passed, was never let anyone take advantage of you. And also growing up, I would hear things like, a man is only able to take advantage of you if you allow him. Watch out for fake friends. And the thing that's not discussed is boundaries as much, right? People say set boundaries, which is, great, but what does that mean? Like, I understand what a boundary is physically, but what is that socially? What is that emotionally? What is that mentally? What's that in an intangible way? And I feel that people don't talk about that. Same thing with confidence, right? So what is confidence? I see what people can look like to be confident. They're beautiful. They have like the perfect everything, I suppose, or they're just really, excited to show off maybe their outfit, or they're not afraid to be on social media. But what is confidence, right? So that's what I want to create a conversation about when it comes to setting boundaries. And I'm actually looking at an article because I wanted to say a couple of things, and I want to kind of take a little bit from Psych Central. An article named 10 Ways to Build and Preserve Better Boundaries. So boundaries are essential to healthy relationships and a really healthy life. Setting and sustaining boundaries is a skill. So don't feel bad when you're first trying things out and it gets really uncomfortable because maybe you haven't set boundaries. Maybe you didn't know that in life you should be assertive with certain things, such as boundaries, right? So it's a skill that many of us don't learn. According to psychologist and coach Donna Giata, PhD, we might pick up pointers here and there from experience or through watching others. But for many of us, boundary building is a relatively new concept and a challenging one. Okay, and you can definitely understand that from a lot of the scriptures that we've seen. Instead of boundaries or compromising, things a lot of times is met with force, and somebody is the oppressor and the other person's the victim. But setting boundaries is not only knowing and understanding what your limits are, but being able to respect someone else's, right? So name your limits, right? So the things that make you feel stressed and uncomfortable, have an idea. And if you need to kind of write it out, right? Because this is going to be a key factor when you're thinking of decisions. It won't be based off of, oh, well, I feel that I really like this person, and sometimes this gets you, upset. If you look at your uncomfortable limits your deal breakers, as I like to say, that list, and if there's things on there that you know you cannot compromise with, that's going to be a key factor for you to be making decisions on. So the things that make you uncomfortable and stressed, and think about also what that is to you, right? Because sometimes we're just thinking, okay, well, these things make me stressed, but maybe I need to learn what that is, right? Let's say, I can't even think of anything at the moment, but whatever that is, if it's not an experience that you're willing to try alone, or to discover alone, to see if you want to, test your limits, I wouldn't say it's worth it. Tune into your feelings is, where we get to the next point, where it's imperative for you to get to know who you are. So one thing that definitely helps me when I am trying to tune into who I am is being raw with myself. So before I do my hair, my makeup, put on clothes, sit in the mirror nude and feel my body, feel if there's pain anywhere, feel how I feel at certain body parts, calming my thoughts, being quiet with itself. First letting the mind go wild, and then tune into the mind being still. See whatever things that may come up, and depending on how they come up, going through that emotion, right? So sometimes things aren't emotional, sometimes they're just concepts, and I ask myself questions, right? Because we all have a voice in our head, which kind of gets me into confidence, right? Confidence, what does it mean to confide in thyself? What do you confide in yourself? And I'm really big on talking about, it's important to figure out what patterns you speak to yourself about. So if you're calling yourself stupid, or you're saying that you're ugly, or you're saying that you don't matter, these are the realities that you're living in. Now, if you cancel, I do matter, I am intelligent, I do have self-worth, I am worthy of love, I am worthy to be respected, I am worthy to be, have what it is that I want, and all that I want. When you start having that conversation with self, it sounds a little different. Reality looks a little different, right? Here's what the PH doctor said. I said PH doctor. The psychologist says, she says, when someone acts in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's a cue to us they may be violating or crossing a boundary, right? And you can treat it like, when they say things like, when you're driving and you see a road that says no trespassers, things like that, that's kind of like what a boundary is, but on an emotional and mental level, right? Look, there's no trespassers this way, right? we don't kind of dig into that. Like, for example, let's say you're working with someone, right? And they ask you something that you find to be uncomfortable, and that's just certain things you just don't share with coworkers. You can say things like, I understand that, this conversation was going one way, but I'm uncomfortable discussing that with you. Don't take that personally. I just don't prefer to be like that. If they're mature enough, they will take that with a grain of salt and say, you know what? Thank you for sharing. I won't do that anymore. Or let's say someone is talking at you, right? Because there's a difference with someone talking at you versus talking to you. So if someone is talking at you and you just don't stand for that, you can simply pull them aside and say, hey, look, I don't mind discussing certain procedures, things like that, but that's just not how I'm operating. And if that's the way in which you operate with others, I would ask for you to talk to me like a regular human being, or maybe we shouldn't work together. And in the event that is the case, look at possible steps in order to make sure that you don't have to be in that predicament. Be direct. That kind of that's another thing, right? So be direct. Like I just said, don't be afraid to pull someone to the side. Monologue with yourself in the mirror. Sometimes it takes that. It definitely took me that a lot of times for certain things, where I would have to monologue in the mirror of, I'm not dealing with that. Or, in a professional manner, how does that sound like? So, I'm from New York City. So, we bump into things all the time. So, I have to have those monologue conversations with self, because there are events that happen and I need to try to be prepared as much as possible. Now, we could wish that we could live in a world in where we wouldn't have to prepare for something negative, but unfortunately that's not the case. So it's not for you to wish a robber away. It's for you to protect yourself as much as possible, so that when that comes around, you're prepared. Okay. Give yourself permission. So fear, guilt, and self-doubt are big potential pitfalls. We might fear the other person's response if we set and enforce our boundaries. We might feel guilty by speaking up or saying no to a family member. Many believe that they should be able to cope with the situation or say yes because they're a good daughter or son. Even though they feel drained or taken advantage of, we might wonder if we should even have boundaries in the first place. Boundaries aren't just a sign of a healthy relationship, they're a sign of self-respect. So give yourself the permission to set boundaries and work to preserve them. Super important. If you find that even down to family are not respecting your boundaries, that is something that is their fault, not yours. But instead of being upset about it, simply do what I said before, where it was listen, I have to talk to you about something. Like, for example, I've had that with family members as well, where I had to set them aside and say, hey, look, I'm not sure what life you're used to talking or whatever the case is, but I'm going to let you know right now, I am not the one to do that with. Love you. It has nothing to do with my love for you. But guess what? I'm not dealing with that. So basically, come to me, come correct or don't come at all. Thank you. That's what the long and short of it was. I'm not going to disrespect you. I would appreciate it if we would, be cordial in that way, that we give each other respect, regardless of age, regardless of background. I would prefer that we build a relationship on that. If you find that is something that you can't do, I would rather you stay your distance. That's it. It's important for you to respect yourself first so that you can learn to respect others. Practice self-awareness. Consider questions such as, what am I doing? Or what is the other person doing? What is the situation it leading to that makes me feel resentful or stressed? What are you going to do about that situation? And what do you have control over? You don't have control over how other people feel. We wish in a perfect world we can control people's feelings. But until we understand the magic that thought came here with, we can't do that, right? So that's what that is. We don't know everyone's experiences, how they're going to react to things, what kind of triggers and traumas they have. So we can't necessarily, guess how they're going to react. All we know is who we are, right? Because we're practicing self-awareness. All we know of is what you're doing and understanding the actions that someone's doing. Now, I can talk about the difference between action and intention, because that's a whole different situation. Hello there, darling. That's a whole different situation. People may intend to have good intentions, but and nevertheless, that person may not even know that although their intentions are one way, their actions are set another. So, keeping accountable or having an accountable partner who is open to understanding themselves and being real with themselves is imperative to have a friend like that. But if you don't, you're your own friend, right? So all you can do is confide in thyself and ask yourself those questions. Consider your past and present. How were you raised along with the role in your family can become additional obstacles in setting and preserving boundaries. If you held the role of caretaker, you've learned to focus on others, letting yourself be drained emotionally or physically. Ignoring your own needs might have become the norm for you. Also, think about the people you surround yourself with, right? Are the relationships reciprocal? Is there a healthy give and take? Because, according to the law of exchange, there needs to be a giver and a receiver. Natural, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But if you sit back and you have conversations such as, nobody cares the way I do, nobody does XYZ the way that I do. A few years ago, I used to be like that. Like, maybe, has it been like 3 years, I think? It's been 3 years ago where I decided to say, if you can't be as loving as I am to you as a friend, as a family member, I don't need you around. Because I understand that I am a seed. I need to be nourished with sunlight, food, and water, right? And that can come in the forms of, health, wealth, and knowledge itself, or, the possibility to express myself the way I want to express myself, not be judged because of things that you don't understand or you don't allow yourself to understand. Because you don't want to develop doesn't mean that I don't. You need to respect that. And if you can't, you shouldn't try to deter me from finding my path the way I see fit. Because nobody deterred you, correct? Therefore, let's really talk about it here, right? And I still deal with that with siblings, and I don't deal with that with friends anymore because I cut those people out of my life. But I've dealt with that with family after I started recognizing that with the friends I used to have. And so because of that, I started to realize what it was like to be around people who, considered me, who allowed me to be free as myself, who allowed me to express myself and respect my boundaries because they would want someone to respect theirs. A healthy give and take. Make self-care a priority. Like you've heard, if you've been in a role of a caretaker, the norm for you, unfortunately, is to make yourself last when that is incorrect. As I started this video by saying, there are concepts that we hear all the time, but they make sense, but we don't understand them. So this is kind of, a video to help trigger an understanding of these different concepts. What is self-care, right? It involves giving yourself permission to put yourself first. And when we do this, our need and motivation to set boundaries become stronger. Self-care also means recognizing the importance of your feelings and honoring them. These feelings serve as important cues about our well-being, about what makes us happy and unhappy. It's okay to be upset. It's okay that something makes you sad. Start with that conversation with yourself of, I really don't like how this person makes me feel. I love them, and apparently they love me too, but I feel that they're missing something with that. And if you can, get that closure with that person. Tell them how you feel. Don't care about how that made them feel. Do it as you would want it to be done to you, but still get your message across if you're in a relationship with them. That could be romantic, that could be friendships, that could be family. Putting yourself first gives you the energy, peace of mind, and positive outlook to be more present with others and be there for them. And when we're in a better place, we can be a better wife, a better mother, a better husband, a better coworker or friend. So, although many things might not be your fault, such as your traumas, such as the memories that you don't want to relive, but it is your responsibility to take care of self. Because in this life, I'm learning more and more that it depends on the relationships we build. The reason why, we're designed the way we are social beings. So whether we hashtag I don't like people or not, at the end of the day, we have to find a liking for them, because that's how we're going to survive. And if you don't like people, do you not like yourself as well? So that's another, I feel like that's another conversation. And need be, seek support, whether that be, a group, a counseling, coaching, good friends. It's a priority to learn how to practice these boundaries and practice them with people that are on the same path as you. When I started to level up and define what that meant for me, I needed to find a group of people who reminded me of what I wanted to be, so that it became easier to understand, hey, I'm talking to a narcissist. Okay, got it. Got it. All right, so what should I say? And then after I learned the verbiage and how I deal with narcissists, that became something easier. Look, we're not going to do this, so lose my number because yours is lost. Goodbye. Period. Whether that be in person or over the phone. And a discussion. You want to be however it is that you want to be, guess what? It's not going to be over here. I'm going to respect your consciousness enough to leave your presence. Okay? Don't follow mine. Because, listen, baby, you might catch a 45. So be assertive, right? So, in a respectful way, let the other person know what in particular is bothersome to you, and so that you guys can work together and address it. That's one thing that I have to say. If we don't have that within a relationship, then we don't need to talk. If we can't talk like regular folk, regular human beings, then there's no reason to do this at all for any kind of relationship, right? And start small, Don't bite off more than you think you can chew. Just like going vegan, right? You don't have to cold turkey in one day, because you might not even know everything you got at cold turkey. Like, did you know that there's pork and gummy bears? There's a lot of factors, right, going on. It's pretty common knowledge now, but there's so many things that exist. Start small. Start with what you know. Start with the things that you monologued with self. And another thing is, when you're nervous, it's okay to address that, because that actually makes you feel more confident when you address, tonight I'm a little nervous. Like, you ever watch like comedians or something start out like that, and then the rest of their gig is like pretty fucking awesome? That is the idea, even when you're having that conversation that feels uncomfortable for you. So setting boundaries takes courage, practice, and support. And remember that it's a skill you can master. We're all mastering that. But that's what I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this segment of setting boundaries, because it's imperative for you to do so. It's imperative for the rest of your life, so that people understand who you are, you know where you stand, and that you don't just fall for anything, because that's how people people will be on Facebook talking about, I sit here and I do XYZ for everybody and their cousin, brother, mother, sister, and everything, and I'm left with dried tilapia. So don't let people give you dried tilapia. That's what I gotta say. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, stay golden, stay beautiful. One love. Peace.